Additionally, Mr. Paparo has handed out from Ms. Morasso the magnet schools and the magnet school tuition and where we are. Right now, we are zeroed out on pre-K. That was a decision that was an argument that was made, and it was determined that we are not responsible for pre-K, and so most superintendents did not plan for pre-K this year. There was in the budget, the rescission budget that went into the governor in December, it was requested that we do pay for pre-K and retroactively till July 1. So this may not be our final. We may have to add pre-K to this. It hasn't been passed yet, but it stands a very good chance of passing. So it should be a little over 600,000 is the bad news. For your information, this is just the enrollment so that you have it with you in the backup area. The January 1st enrollment. You all know what that is. That's all right. These were questions from board members. I'll go over them as briefly as I can. I just explain if there's details that you want to know about, I can certainly answer those questions. The first set of questions was given to me a list of teachers who might have been listed this year for $50,000 and next year for $75,000. And that would in general be to people who were transferred after the budget was solid last year. So people in the end of the year who asked for a transfer to an open position, who moved around, etc. So I'd be glad to go through those if you want me to, but that's really what those are. One of them was that I have no idea how they got transposed. This year's salary got transposed. In this year's budget is correct, but it got transposed. But the totals are correct. So that was the first question was about that. And again, I'd be happy to answer questions. The second one was the breakdown in temporary salaries. The large chunk of that is summer school. We were looking to extend the year, creating enrichment activities as well as remediation. But enrichment activities, right now, high school and middle school are paid for by parents 100%, and this opens it up to all students who can attend. And so there's also some summer clerical work in there for middle and high. For all the schools, there was an increase, you can see, of summer and clerical work, but the main amount of money is for summer school. Increase in field and athletic trips. We have a new bus contract, certainly, and so a lot of these went up by a couple of $100. At the middle and high school, most of the increases were due to athletics, math team, band competitions, those kinds of things. Those are all detailed in that line item within each location. The pupil personnel, we do need to provide a lift if our students need a lift, and we have students who are in need of that. Some years we don't have that need, some years we do have that need, and so we do need to provide that lift bus as well. Lake Street had nothing in their field trip account, and so they put $1,500 in. Some of them, the schools already had some in there and added to it, so it's individual by school. I had a question about an additional football coach. Last year we were down to 25 in the fall, and so Mr. Phelps did recommend the reduction of one. This year we were up to 43. We did sustain 40 through the end of the school year, or the end of the season, excuse me. And so that request has remained in. The next was an increase of $180,000 in paraprofessional salaries. That does represent our current staff. You can see the breakdown of that, which I know you could see in your detail. But I wanted to point that out. You can see that in general instruction, there's an increase of $194,000. There's a decrease in other areas as well. That would be for people who are working with individual students who are not identified either as of yet or hopefully will never be identified as a special education student. So the paraprofessionals have been assigned individually. All of them are assigned by Mrs. Buell. and it's as needed by students. So that represents our current staff and what our needs were this year. The next was the increase. There were 3 positions that were transferred to the town of Vernon, that is correct, and of technology, that's the next one, under professional and technical services. You can see the other increases there as well, officials and referees, and that's a sign of the times, and that funding does go up. But in terms of the specific line item, I think you have it in on page 12 of your PowerPoint. It does indicate that the increase, the increase to the technology, $560,000, is the increase to the enterprise fund. This year, I think we have 350. That would make sense. 340, perhaps. We're looking for a total of $900,000. We're very hopeful that that will cover our portion of 50% of the town enterprise fund and the data processing services. You know that there have been incredible improvements in terms of the network. We met this morning, and I'm very anxious to meet again with our technology committee to share the long list of projects that are being undertaken by the Vernon Data Processing Center that benefits not only the entire town, but it's very specifically the Board of Education. So it's a very exciting time, and it does cost a lot of money. So 900 would be our share of that. The town would be putting in an equal amount. There was a question about the 2010-11 budget, which was the first budget I worked with, but not a budget I prepared. It did come in at 3.76% over the previous year, and the question was, what was that due mostly to? So I do happen to have that budget. I did look in it, and there are normal increases in salaries, in education. Special education tuition actually went down. So up and down, the areas that were incredible increases, these are the line item increases. The HMO health plan the increase was $1.8 million, almost $1.9 million. That's a 65% increase in health insurance over the previous year. Prescription drugs was a 25% increase over the previous year. That actually represents a 4.6% increase of the previous budget, of the 09-10 budget. Obviously, there were other things that went up and down, and so it wasn't representative. It was mitigated in some way. But that was a year, I can't imagine a 65% increase in health insurance, but that was the year. Someone wanted to know who pays the preschool teachers, because that was a new program a couple of years ago. I've listed our 5 elementary schools, the preschool teachers, and how they are paid. You can see that 2 of them are paid out of the Special Education Grant, IDEA. That's probably Early Intervening Services. 2 of them are paid out of local. Both of those people are special education teachers. One of them is listed under regular education, but she is paid, but she is a special educator. But both of them are special educators, and the other 3 are paid by EastCon, but they are not our employees. We do not issue them a check, so we do not capture them within the budget. We could type them in, certainly, but they truly are not our employees. They respond to EastCon and are supervised by them as well. As a follow-up to those, I was asked about the discrepancy in the number of teachers listed in each budget and the number that are either on the enrollment enrollment form that you received for January 1st or on the class list. If you have a handbook of one of your children, you would be able to count the teachers. I include pre-K through grade 5. Center Road does have 23 classroom teachers, and 23 are listed. One of them happens to be pre-K, and down at the very bottom, paid by IDEA. Lake Street has 14 teachers, 12 are listed. One of them is an EastCon employee. The other one was the one that used to be paid by a grant, and we discovered this error, and we thank you very much, Mrs. Fisher, for bringing this to our attention. She was not brought over Even though she was on the list, she was not brought over because she was not paid by us prior to this. So we are missing her from the budget, and I've given you the amount. Maple Street has 15 teachers, 14 are listed, plus the one who works for EastCon. Northeast has 15.6 teachers, 14.6 are listed, plus the one for EastCon. Skinner Road has 17 and a half, and 17 and a half are listed. One of them happens to be listed under special ed, so down a few lines, but she is a preschool teacher. The budgeted amount for custodians and secretaries, I asked the same question. Last year, or must have been the year before, no, it must have been last year. This year's contract was open for secretaries and custodians. They did not have a raise that was determined, so that was negotiated by the board late in the spring last year with them. There was a placeholder in the budget that was higher than what was negotiated by the board's negotiating team and agreed to under collective bargaining. And so they were listed at a higher number than they actually received. In addition to that, we've had several retirements, and so we have been hiring at a lower step. So if there's a significant drop, that would be the reason for that there was a significant drop. So the new numbers do reflect the current salary. And I think I did. No.
Board members, questions? What you just heard. Ms. Goldich.
Thank you. Dr. Conway, so the Golda position from here, is it reflected in this figure or no? Or should be added here?
I'm sorry, it is not reflected in that. That's correct. We've after that, Mrs. Revi was able to put that together. That's when we discovered. It was late this morning, and we were running around trying to figure out where she went, because we know she works.
Other questions based on Mr. Percy?
The one about the 10-11 budget with the 3.76 increase. You're saying 4 point. If you just took the medical, it was 4.6 over the previous year.
That's where I think 4.06, but yes.
It says 4.6.
Okay, 4.6.
Anyway.
Yes. 4.6.
So that means we actually took almost 1% out of our somewhere out of.
That's correct, and when I looked at the rest of the budget, I saw significant decreases, hundreds of thousands of dollars in special ed tuition, both non-public and public.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that was the large area that allowed it to get smaller.
Thank you.
Any other follow-up questions on the information we just presented? Seeing no more questions.
And Mr. Hill, we do have several principals here who might be able to answer questions, other administrators, Mr. Peluso, Mr. Kleinhans is here as well, so you know.
Thank you all. Ms. Fisher.
I have some questions for Mr. Picaro, probably. I'm assuming he's not going to know the answers to this. The increase that we have in our medical insurance, did you take into account the fact that some of our unions are picking up the increase in our medical expenses?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, at this point, based on the information that we've gotten from our brokers, and they've looked at all of our union contracts, that's the percent that they're recommending. Obviously, we hope with the bid process that we're in the middle of right now and the bid results coming in, we hope that number is going to go down significantly. In fact, as an update from the Finance Committee, I did speak with our brokers yesterday, and they're expecting within a one-week turnaround time, Mr. Chairman, for us to have those numbers back, which is a little sooner than we expected. So hopefully we'll see those numbers go down from what we projected.
Well, but what I'm asking is that in one of our unions, which is our largest union, they are to pick up the total increase. So I don't think a total 13% increase is necessary in the budget.
Yeah, again, through you, Mr. Chairman, when they did the projections, we factored that in. That's the formula that they had used. I think they're going high based on the short period of claims experience that they've seen so far for the totality of the insurance that we're getting. But hopefully that number is going to be going down.
So our increase is all based on HSA?
Correct.
Because the teachers pick up the difference on the